Declaration of Biafra, 2nd December 2024. The day Simon Ekpa had been fighting for had finally arrived. The day he would declare the independence of Biafra to the world. It was 2nd December 2024, a day that would mark the beginning of a new chapter in the history of Biafra, and one that would change the course of the nation's future. For years, Simon had navigated the perilous road of resistance, fighting not only against the Nigerian government, but against the world's indifference. The international community had long turned a blind eye to the suffering of the Biafran people. But now, after years of protests, struggles, and growing global attention, Biafra was on the cusp of freedom. In the early hours of that fateful day, Simon and his closest allies gathered in a secure location. The world was watching, but only a select few knew the weight of what was about to happen. The plan had been in the works for months, meticulously coordinated with support from international allies, human rights organizations, and journalists who had amplified their voices. But the most significant development came from the highest levels of power. America, led by its new president, Donald Trump, had offered its support, breaking decades of diplomatic silence on the Biafran question. Simon stood in front of a small group of supporters and officials, his voice firm but filled with emotion as he prepared to make the announcement that would change everything. I stand before you today, not as an individual, but as a representative of the long-suffered people of Biafra. We have suffered, we have resisted, and we have hoped. Today, we declare with all the strength of our ancestors and all the courage of our people that Biafra is free, Simon announced. We are no longer a part of Nigeria. We are Biafrans and we are sovereign. The crowd erupted in applause, tears streaming down faces that had carried the weight of oppression for so long. Simon's declaration wasn't just the words of a leader. It was the fulfillment of a promise made years before under the ancient Irok tree. Simon then addressed the world, speaking directly into the cameras and microphones that were now focused on him from every corner of the globe. His words echoed with the clarity and conviction. Biafra has waited for too long, for too many years, to be treated as equals, to be seen as a sovereign people with the right to self-determination. Today, we reclaim our birthright, our freedom, and our future. To the world, Biafra is open for business, for growth, and for peace. We seek justice, dignity, and recognition as an independent nation. The world held its breath. What had once been seen as an impossible dream was now a reality. The global response, support, and recognition. The news of Biafra's independence spread like wildfire. Major media outlets worldwide covered the historic moment, with broadcasts reaching every corner of the earth. But what truly set this moment apart was the support from powerful world leaders, most notably from the United States. President Donald Trump, having entered office in early 2025, publicly acknowledged Simon Ekpa's leadership and the legitimacy of Biafra's independence. In a statement delivered from the White House, Trump said, "The United States stands with Simon Ekpa and the people of Biafra in their pursuit of freedom and self-determination. We recognize the sovereignty of Biafra and support its efforts to rebuild and reintegrate into the global economy. Trump's declaration sent shockwaves through the international community. This was a break from the past, as the United States had long been a staunch ally of Nigeria, a relationship rooted in oil and strategic interests. But with Simon Ekpa's unwavering determination and his ability to garner international attention, even America's priorities shifted. Other world leaders soon followed suit. The European Union issued a statement acknowledging Biafra's right to self-determination and expressed a willingness to engage with the new nation in matters of trade and diplomacy. The United Kingdom, Canada, and several African countries also recognized Biafra as a sovereign state, paving the way for diplomatic ties to form. However, Simon knew that independence was just the first step. Biafra would have to rebuild from decades of marginalization and conflict, and it would need to establish itself on the world stage, not only as a political entity, but also as an economic powerhouse. Biafra's emergence on the world stage. With global recognition came the challenge of re-establishing Biafra as a viable nation in the world economy. Simon Ekpa understood that Biafra's future was tied to its ability to become a key player in international trade, technology, and resources. He had studied the global economy during his years in Europe and knew that Biafra could thrive by leveraging its natural resources, the creativity and resilience of its people, and strong international partnerships. Biafra's rich oil reserves, fertile lands, and emerging tech-savvy youth would become the foundation of its economic strategy. Simon announced that Biafra would focus on sustainable development, prioritizing education, technology, and agricultural innovation to ensure long-term prosperity. He also made it clear that Biafra would not rely solely on oil exports, but would diversify into green energy, infrastructure, and high-tech industries. A critical part of Biafra's integration into the global economy was securing trade agreements. With the support of the United States, Simon's government negotiated key deals with international corporations, including partnerships in energy, technology, and manufacturing. Biafra's natural resources, especially its oil and agricultural products, were in high demand. At the same time, Simon worked to establish a transparent and fair trade system, prioritizing sustainability and social equity. Within a year, Biafra's stock market began to rise. Foreign investment flowed into the country, and the Biafran diaspora, now spread across the world, returned home, bringing new skills, ideas, and capital. Biafra's capital city, which had once been a symbol of struggle, was transformed into a bustling hub of commerce and innovation. Infrastructure projects began to dot the landscape, from high-speed rail lines to modern medical centers and educational institutions. Biafra's influence in African affairs grew as well. Simon became a voice of reason and a key figure in the African Union, advocating for peace, unity, and economic cooperation across the continent. His leadership helped Biafra gain a seat at the United Nations, further solidifying its place on the world stage. Biafra's place in the global economy. By 2028, just a few years after its independence, Biafra was no longer an underdog. It was a rising star. The country had developed its own tech industry, attracting startups and innovations that were previously unthinkable. Biafra became a leader in renewable energy, harnessing its natural resources to create sustainable energy solutions that benefited not only Biafrans but also neighboring countries in Africa. Biafra's agricultural exports surged as it became a leader in organic farming and sustainable food production, feeding both its population and international markets. Its position in global trade networks, coupled with its skilled labor force and entrepreneurial spirit, made it one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. Simon Ekpa's dream had been realized. Biafra was no longer a land of oppression and struggle. It was a beacon of hope and prosperity for its people and for the world. And as Simon stood before the people of Biafra once again, watching them gather in the newly built city square, he knew that their journey was far from over. But they had come so far, and with each passing day, the spirit of Biafra burned brighter than ever before. "Biafra is free," Simon said to the crowd, his voice echoing with pride. "We are free and we are stronger than ever. This is our time." And as the crowd cheered, Simon knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, the people of Biafra would face them together, united, proud, and free. The road ahead: unity, challenges, and a new dawn. As Biafra's global standing continued to rise, Simon Ekpa remained grounded in the values that had fueled the movement from the very beginning. The fight for freedom had been won, but Simon knew that the true test was only just beginning. Now that Biafra was independent, the real work of nation building would require careful leadership, unity, and resilience. He would have to navigate the complexities of diplomacy, governance, and economic growth, while maintaining the spirit of the revolution that had brought his people to this point. A unified Biafra, building a nation. In the years following Biafra's independence, Simon focused on forging a unified national identity. The struggle for independence had united the people, but Simon understood that the true strength of Biafra lay in its diversity. The Biafran people were made up of different ethnicities, languages, and traditions, all of which had been oppressed under the Nigerian state. To build a prosperous nation, Simon believed that Biafrans needed to come together as one. He introduced educational programs that emphasized unity and mutual respect for all of Biafra's ethnic groups. The curricula in schools highlighted the rich histories and contributions of various communities, promoting pride in their shared heritage while fostering understanding of each other's cultures. Simon's government invested in infrastructure to connect the far-flung regions of Biafra, ensuring that rural areas could thrive alongside the growing urban centers. Simon also established a strong independent judiciary to safeguard the principles of justice and equality, ensuring that Biafrans could hold their leaders accountable. There were efforts to create a balanced economy that did not depend solely on oil but integrated technology, agriculture, and manufacturing. This comprehensive approach helped Biafra move away from being a one-resource economy, with Simon pushing for innovation and self-sufficiency across all sectors. The international stage: navigating challenges. While Biafra's emergence had been met with support from the United States and several other countries, Simon knew that challenges would come. The global powers were watching, and though Biafra's independence was celebrated, there were still many who questioned its stability and long-term viability. Some international critics warned that Biafra's break from Nigeria could set a dangerous precedent for other separatist movements around the world. Simon and his government faced immense diplomatic pressure, especially from those countries with vested interests in maintaining the status quo in Nigeria. But Simon refused to back down. He believed that Biafra's independence was not just a victory for his people, it was a victory for every nation and every people struggling for justice, freedom, and self-determination. To bolster his case on the world stage, Simon continued to engage in diplomatic dialogue with countries and international organizations. He made sure that Biafra's new leadership was seen as responsible, peaceful, and committed to contributing to global peace. Simon's efforts to establish Biafra as a respected member of the United Nations and other global bodies were not easy, but they slowly paid off. Over time, more countries recognized Biafra's sovereignty, including some who had previously been hesitant to embrace the new nation. One of the most significant turning points came when Simon, along with other world leaders, was invited to speak at the United Nations General Assembly. There, he presented Biafra not just as a newly independent state, but as a model for how nations could achieve freedom while remaining committed to the global community. His speech called for international cooperation, peace, and sustainable development, outlining Biafra's plans to lead by example in the global fight against climate change and inequality. Biafra's economic rise, innovation, and growth. By 2030, Biafra had emerged as one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. The nation had successfully transitioned from a war-torn and isolated state to a vibrant and forward-thinking country. Simon's emphasis on education, innovation, and sustainable practices had set Biafra apart from other nations that relied on oil as their main economic driver. Biafra's tech industry was thriving, with several multinational tech giants establishing research and development centers in the country. The youth of Biafra, inspired by Simon's vision, had taken to entrepreneurship with enthusiasm. Startups in renewable energy, agriculture, and digital innovation were booming. Simon had worked hard to ensure that Biafra's education system was world-class, fostering the next generation of leaders and innovators who would continue to push the country forward. The agricultural sector also saw significant advancements. Biafra became a global leader in organic farming and food security, with its export of grains, vegetables, and other crops booming across the world. The country's fertile lands were being harnessed in new and innovative ways, making Biafra a key player in global food production. Biafra's oil industry, while still important, was no longer the sole focus of the economy. Simon's government had worked with international partners to create a balanced energy policy with a focus on green energy solutions and sustainable resource management. This foresight helped shield Biafra from the volatility of the global oil market and positioned the nation as a leader in renewable energy and green technologies. The spirit of Biafra, the people's triumph. The most remarkable transformation, however, was in the spirit of the people. The struggle for independence had created a deep sense of pride and unity. Biafrans were no longer just survivors of conflict. They were a vibrant, thriving people with hope for the future. Simon's vision of a free and prosperous Biafra had come to fruition, and the country was now a symbol of resilience, unity, and progress. Every year, on the 2nd of December, Biafrans gathered to celebrate their freedom and remember the sacrifices that had been made to achieve it. The streets were filled with music, dancing, and displays of pride as the people came together to honor the nation they had built. It was a time to reflect on the struggles of the past, but also to celebrate the achievements of the present and the future that lay ahead. Simon Ekpa, now a revered leader, often stood among the crowds, looking out at the faces of the people he had fought for. He had done it. Biafra was free, and the spirit of Biafra lived on in the hearts of its people, who had overcome every obstacle to claim their rightful place in the world. A new era of leadership. As Biafra flourished, Simon turned his attention to the future. He was not just a leader, he had become a symbol of the power of self-determination and the ability to shape one's destiny. He knew that the work was never truly done and that new challenges would always arise. But for Simon, the most important thing was this: Biafra had become a nation that could no longer be ignored, a nation that had risen from the ashes of struggle and injustice to become a beacon of hope for the world. He looked forward to the day when Biafra would host the world's most influential leaders, not as a question mark on the global stage, but as a leader in its own right. A nation that had overcome oppression, reclaimed its dignity, and stood tall among the world's great powers. And as he stood with his people on that December morning, Simon Ekpa knew that the journey of Biafra had just begun. But it was a journey full of promise, hope, and limitless potential. Summary of Simon Ekpa's journey and Biafra's triumph. The story of Simon Ekpa and the liberation of Biafra is one of struggle, resilience, and triumph against all odds. Born in the heart of the forests in Uzi town, Simon's destiny was shaped by an ancient oracle, Njoku, who foretold that he would be the one to lead his people out of the marginalization they faced under Nigerian rule. From a young age, Simon carried the burden of this prophecy, knowing that his life would be devoted to the freedom of his people. Leaving Nigeria at an early age to study in Europe, Simon gained knowledge and insights into how nations could stand against oppression, how diplomacy worked, and how to build a self-sufficient and prosperous state. As he grew older, Simon returned to Biafra, now facing an entirely different challenge: to unite a fragmented nation and lead a peaceful struggle for independence. The fight for Biafra's sovereignty was not without its struggles. Despite the challenges, including opposition from the Nigerian government, global indifference, and internal divisions, Simon's persistence and strategic planning led to the historic declaration of Biafra's independence on 2nd December 2024. This bold move shocked the world, but it was supported by others, including President Donald Trump of the United States, who publicly acknowledged Biafra's right to self-determination. With global recognition, Biafra set its sights on rebuilding its economy and strengthening its place in the world. Simon's leadership was crucial in diversifying the country's economy, focusing not only on its oil reserves, but also on renewable energy, technology, and sustainable agriculture. Biafra's emergence as a global economic player was propelled by its rich natural resources, innovative industries, and the resilience of its people. In the years that followed, Biafra became a symbol of hope for oppressed nations everywhere. It proved that with determination, unity, and strategic leadership, even the most marginalized peoples could achieve self-determination and reclaim their rightful place in the world. If you enjoyed this true life folktale story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Here, we share
The United States of America is a steadfast supporter of the principles that people have a right to choose their own form of government. Nations have a right to choose their own alliances. There are inalienable rights governments must protect. The rule of law must be cherished. Sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states must be respected.
The UN Charter and its principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, human dignity, and the right to self-defense, these principles are universal and we must uphold them. International law must be protected always and everywhere, without any ambiguity, in Ukraine, in the Middle East, and everywhere in the world. This is our global responsibility.
Self-preservation must be protected at all costs. Today, the Biafra Liberation Army have neutralized dozens of these terrorists in our land, and we are proud of them. They will continue to go down. Our demand is very simple. Pull them out of Biafra land. Remove every checkpoint. If you do not dismantle all the checkpoints, they will continue to die. We will continue to excel. We will continue to deal with Nigeria, and Nigeria will never ever remain the same until Biafra exits from Nigeria. A government that uses violence will be responded with the same and equal measure of violence in self-defense. So I told them,
oh my God,
care is not taken, I will turn to a beast and Biafra will come. Nigeria has no rule of law. Their rule of law is gun and bullet. And we have come to resist it. My fellow Biafrans, the world leaders made it very clear that self-preservation is a must. They use the word must. And it should be protected at all costs. At all costs.
You see, the land of Biafra must be defended at all costs. At all costs. It is the land of God, given to his children for their eternal habitation. We may have failed in the past to recognize this very fact, but now that this generation has come, there is nothing anybody can do to stop us from restoring the kingdom of God upon the face of this very earth in the land of Biafra, without apologies to anybody.
I want you people to understand that the liberation of Biafra has entered the highest stage in the history of Biafra. Not even during the war. I am telling you, it has entered the highest stage ever. And we are going to do everything humanly possible in this life to restore Biafra. Everything humanly possible will be done. And I want you people to understand that the Biafra liberation is step by step, segment by segment, plan by plan, executions by execution. We'll be executing those plans according to the template till the last one, and Biafra.
Let us go talk about the objective of your struggle and how do you intend to achieve it in practical terms?
In practical terms, it is civil disobedience. The same way that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. accomplished civil rights in America, the same way that Mahatma Gandhi led India to independence out of British colonial rule. The same principles we are applying, and might I add, very successfully too. We will do everything possible to unravel and unshackle the zoo called Nigeria. Everything humanly possible. No stone will be left unturned. We will sacrifice everything sacrificable. Material, life, blood will throw into it. And we will do everything humanly possible to see the Biafra. A lot is going on in our land, and of course, we have to defend ourselves any day, anytime. Nigeria terrorist government have come with a lot of propaganda. When you demonstrate that you are ready to fight for your freedom, they profile you. They call you criminals, they call you terrorists, they call you all manner of names. The reason for that is to demoralize you. And we must not fall for that. My fellow Biafrans, I call on you this evening, do not allow the names they call you today to demoralize you. We're remembering what Nigeria did to over 3 million Biafra children through starvation. Yet, the world, as at then, wanted us to move on. 50 years later, after recounting the numbers of Biafrans that died or should have been avoided, we are all here today for not just a revenge, but to finish what our fathers started. And of course, the most important of it all is to destroy Nigeria, the evil Nigeria entity, to destroy it. Nigeria is a terrorist state, and after destroying it, we will liberate our people through a process that has begun. The liberation of Biafra from Nigeria will restore peace, stability in our region. It will also end the upsurge of terrorists and piracy in the Gulf of Coast of Guinea, and of course beyond. The liberation of Biafra from Nigeria will restore peace and stability. Do not let the corrupt and criminal politicians to deceive you into believing supporting your own freedom is a crime, irrespective of our approach to restoring Biafra. I want to remind all of us, in 1776, the United States separated from the United Kingdom by declaration. Today, they are the world power. In 1830, Belgium separated from Netherlands. Today, they are one of the most powerful countries in Europe, both of the countries. In 1965, Singapore separated from Malaysia. Today, they have transformed into global financial hub as a result of the separation. Why is it that when we call for separation, Nigeria and their criminals will be calling us terrorists? Don't fall for it.
She's here. I can see her daddy Orama with her logo.
You say you can do what? She said she cannot on her video.
Oh, I didn't mute. I didn't do anything like that.
No,
Can
no,
you
she's
check?
not saying it's you. You say if you turn it, what happens? Adadi Orama. She said you should look at her that she's dark. That when she turn her video, it's dark. Can you?
I don't know. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to start with the national item or the first one?
Yeah, hold on, Gabriel, 1 second, please.
Hold on first. We're trying to. So I didn't touch anything about the video. Somebody is writing this thing here. Oh my
Yeah.
God. We're just dealing with it.
Good evening, my Prime Minister, His Excellency, Mazi Samuel. I called into the program not for any question, but a testimonial of what is going on and how it is. First of all, coming out is something, that's why I and Dr. Rudolph had a little off and on. I'm calling from the homeland and from Biafra land precisely, and I can tell you that it is testimony of what's going on. Before the arrival, for those of you, because most of you saying this, most of you based in America, you based in USA, you based in Europe, you're not in the homeland. But I will tell you this for free today that EML, Edeji Benwe, and that thing is what I'm here to tell you. Understand? Before the emergence of PM, we know how the zoo, then we know how here has been. We know how the zoo has been. And since the existence of PM who can testify how the zoo has been, which is of good. I'll use the answers as an example because most of you may not experience answers, but you heard and watch of it. Now, what caused answers? Military and a young boy in a white Hilux, in a white Lexus. Now that caused answers, and during answer protest, which is a civil demonstration, youths were gone down. You understand? And up to today, justice for them is of nowhere. All these things are happening in the homeland. We know how youths are going down on daily basis. And now that Prime Minister has emerged, I can tell you this for free that of this axis is very cool. Of this axis is very cool, not like before anymore. And kudos to him and his team and what he's doing. Kudos to the Biafran army. I'm going to say that because I am calling direct from the homeland, and I'll tell you that we are feeling it. We know how everything is. We know how bad it is. We know how everything from checkpoint to checkpoint. I will tell you for free, when I and my friend were driving just for nothing, we were, like, should I call it, because that thing is an illegal kidnap. It's not, it's an illegal arrest. That thing is something else. We are taken from one ISO to another to Upo division, where we were collected money for free for something we do not do. For a
All right.
crown, that's Nigeria for you. So whatever our Prime Minister is doing, kudos to him and every other Igbo person or every other reasonable person. You can see North, for example. The North has gone. Here where we are, the North are coming out.
Doc, please, can you check who is doing that? He has muted. You see, they are attacking this.
It's not me. Someone is attacking me. Yeah.
Can we information secretary, can you play it through your phone? That's what I'm gonna do. Please forget about this and let's play it through your phone. Thank you.
Son we love and cherish. We have vanquished our enemies. All hail Biafra. God bless Biafra. In him we trust. Shout it, sing it. All hail Biafra. God bless Biafra. We have emerged triumphant from all our foes. Through the crucible unscathed, we passed victorious.